For 10 raw seconds, picture the great Carl Jung sitting alone in a dim alpine study. Storm cloud shadows race across the walls, and he leans forward, almost whispering. Isolation is not exile, it is initiation. If that single sentence makes your pulse quicken, stay right here, because the banned truths Jung shared about solitude carry the hidden power to rewrite your destiny, and the next 1,000 words will hand you the key. When Jung withdrew from public life after his break with Freud, rumors swirled that he'd gone mad. What really happened was far more radical. He entered deliberate seclusion on the shore of Lake Zurich and turned that silence into a laboratory of the soul. He later confided, off-record to a student who took private notes, that modern society confuses loneliness with isolation. Loneliness, he said, is the ache of disconnection. Isolation, when chosen, is the furnace where unconscious gold is smelted into conscious wisdom. He spoke of 3 invisible phases every seeker meets once they step away from the noise. The first is detox. At the start, the mind twitches like a hand reaching for a vanished phone. External voices, family, friends, headlines still echo, begging for attention. Jung warned his pupil not to flee this discomfort, because it signals the surface personality cracking. In the crack's silence, deeper images begin to seep upward. The second phase arrives unannounced, descent. Jung compared it to Dante entering the dark wood. Dreams turn vivid, forgotten memories resurface. Archetypal figures, shadowy strangers, wise elders, visit the imagination. Here, most people recoil, labeling the visions madness. Jung insisted they are medicine. Isolation removes the anesthetic of constant chatter, so the psyche can clean old wounds. He told the student, do not interpret yet, only record. The unconscious dislikes premature judgment. Somewhere in that descent, time loosens. Days blur. Jung recounted wandering his Bollingen Tower, stacking stones by the lake, watching firelight flicker against rough walls. Mundane motions became ritual acts, anchoring him while the inner world rearranged itself. He discovered that in isolation the smallest gestures, grinding coffee, sharpening a pencil, turned sacramental, grounding the psyche between worlds. Then comes the third phase, emergence. It does not announce itself with trumpets, rather, a calm dawn inside the chest. Thoughts stretch like muscles after deep sleep. Jung described waking one morning knowing, not thinking, that he was part of something vast and benevolent. The terrors of descent transformed into guiding symbols. He called this state participation mystique reversed. Instead of being unconsciously fused with collective noise, the individual stands rooted, able to re-enter society carrying inner authority. Jung stressed that isolation's power depends on intention. Forced solitude, like imprisonment, can break a soul. Chosen solitude, held with purpose, builds it. The student asked how long one must withdraw. Jung smiled. Long enough for the silence to answer questions you never asked aloud. He cautioned about 2 hazards. The first is narcissistic inflation, believing isolation makes you superior. True solitude, Jung said, reveals humbling interdependence. The second hazard is permanent retreat. You are not meant to become a hermit relic, he joked. The aim is to return with gifts for the community, like the hero exiting the underworld. Practical counsel followed. Before entering solitude, write a contract with yourself stating the questions you seek. Keep a dream journal from day 1. Move the body daily. Walk, swim, split wood to prevent psychic stagnation. Limit books. Let the unconscious author its own library. And when fear spikes, breathe into the diaphragm and say, "Show me what I must see." Jung believed fear is the threshold guardian. Naming it aloud opens the gate. He also spoke of micro-isolations, pockets of silence woven into daily life. 10 minutes in a parked car before work, headphones off, eyes closed, can refresh the same currents invoked during longer retreats. Even city dwellers can practice inner cloistering, carving mental distance amid crowds by focusing on breath and heartbeat. Perhaps the most banned notion Jung shared was that society deliberately pathologizes chosen isolation because a self-knowing individual is harder to manipulate. Advertisers, political movements, even well-meaning relatives thrive on your constant engagement, your need for validation. Step away, and their power over your psyche shrinks. Jung laughed softly. Isolation is treason against the empire of noise. Near the interview's end, he offered a parable. A caterpillar thinks the cocoon is death. The stillness, the darkness, the dissolving self, intolerable. Yet only through that solitary metamorphosis does the creature gain wings. Humans, Jung said, require periodic cocoons. Refuse them, and you crawl forever. Accept them, and you join the air. So what do you do tomorrow? Schedule an hour with no digital intrusions. Enter a room, leave the lights low, and simply sit. Notice the fidgets, the spinning thoughts. Let them whirl until they slow on their own. Bring a notebook. When images or phrases drift up, jot them down without censorship. Repeat daily for a week. Watch how your dreams change, how hunches sharpen, how irrelevant conversations lose allure. That subtle shift is your psyche rearranging under isolation's spell. If dread arises, remember Jung's assurance. The unconscious is not trying to destroy you. It is trying to introduce you to yourself. Isolation strips away borrowed identities so original essence can speak. And when that voice finally breaks the surface, you will know it by its quiet authority, the resonance of truth that needs no approval. By the interview's close, thunder rolled outside the study windows, mirroring the storm that had brewed inside Jung during his own solitary quests. He offered one last sentence, almost a benediction. May your aloneness be fertile, and may you return bearing fruit that feeds the world. Take these words, carve out your cocoon, and discover the hidden power waiting in your chosen silence. Lightning flashes beyond Jung's study window as we pick up exactly where we left off, the scent of rain still lingering in the air. You've just heard Jung's invitation to craft your own cocoon of chosen silence. Now we push deeper into the practice, uncovering how isolation turns raw psychic ore into living gold, and how you can carry that radiance back into a noisy world without losing it. The first secret Jung shared off-record was the power of rhythm. In isolation, time feels fluid, and that looseness can drown an unanchored mind. So he built simple, steady rituals, morning fire lighting, midday lake walks, evening candle meditation. These acts weren't about productivity. They were pulse beats, sensing the conscious and unconscious like a drummer calling scattered warriors into formation. Your version might be brewing tea, stitching for 10 minutes, or breathing through sun salutations. The point is repetition, an embodied metronome that reassures the nervous system while the deeper psyche rearranges itself. Next comes conversation with the imaginal. Jung insisted that isolation without active imagination is merely quiet boredom. He would sit at his stone table, close his eyes, and invite whatever image, voice, or feeling wished to appear. A warrior in ancient armor might stride forth. A frightened child might sob in a corner. A radiant feminine figure, his anima, might offer cryptic counsel. Jung greeted each presence respectfully, asking, "Who are you? What do you need me to know?" Then he listened, not arguing, not forcing meaning. He transcribed the dialogues into red ink journals that later formed his famous, but once private, red book. Try this yourself. Once the external world is muted, let inner characters speak. They are fragments of you, exiled talents and wounds seeking reintegration. Inevitably, shadows emerge, old guilt, rage, envy. Jung warned that many abort their solitude when the psychic basement door creaks open. Don't. These shadows are gatekeepers. Approach them as you would a wounded animal. Slow breath, soft gaze, no judgment. Ask what they guard. Often they conceal forgotten power. Creativity smothered by criticism, leadership dulled by past humiliation. When you befriend the shadow, that power re-enters your bloodstream. A curious thing happens then. The outer world begins mirroring inner shifts. Jung tracked uncanny events. An owl landing at his window after a dream of Athena. An old friend writing moments after appearing in meditation. He called this field effect the psychoid level, where psyche and matter interlace. Expect similar ripples. As you integrate within, synchronicities flare without, confirming you're on the path. Record them. They are breadcrumb trails left by the self guiding you home. But isolation is only half the alchemy. Jung emphasized return. You must cross back into community carrying the elixir of insight. Otherwise, solitude curdles into escapism. Plan your re-entry consciously. Before ending your retreat, whether hours or months, write a bridging statement. When I step out, I will nurture my newly claimed creativity by finishing the song draft. Or, I will protect my inner silence by limiting trivial scrolling to 15 minutes nightly. Concrete vows turn mystical insight into lived transformation. Back among people, the challenge is noise intrusion. Jung's antidote was inner ear training. Even at roaring conferences, he'd silently drop attention to his breath, feeling the rise-fall of ribs, the cool warm of air. This micro-isolation preserved the dialogue with self while eyes remained open. Practice this on subways and meetings at family dinners. You'll notice a cushion of calm around your awareness, a private sanctuary nobody can breach. There's also the matter of resonance. After deep solitude, your frequency changes. Certain friends may now feel jarringly out of tune. Jung advised compassion, not superiority. Share your insights only with those who ask sincerely. Otherwise, guard them like seedlings from frost. Meanwhile, seek kindred spirits, writers, artists, seekers who honor silence and death. Together you form an invisible monastery, supporting each other's ongoing individuation. Expect periodic recalls to the cocoon. Growth isn't a one-off rite, but a spiral. Engage the world. Withdraw, digest, emerge, repeat. Mark your calendar with mini retreats, an afternoon hike without devices, a night camping under stars that serve as pit stops for the soul. Each cycle refines your essence, like successive hammerings forging steel. Let's ground this with a 7-day micro-isolation blueprint inspired by Jung. Day 1. Severance. After dinner, power down every screen. Write a simple intention. I enter silence to meet what seeks my attention. Sleep notebook beside bed. Day 2. Detox. Wake early. Capture your dreams. No news, no social feeds. Walk 30 minutes, letting mental static burn off. No urges to quit. Greet them like weather. Day 3. Descent. Begin active imagination. Close eyes, invite an inner figure. Dialogue 10 minutes, then journal. In the evening, perform a small ritual. Light a candle, whisper gratitude for what surfaced. Day 4. Shadow. Delve deeper. Ask the day's first appearing image what fear it holds. Sketch or clay model the answer. Physically move, dance, run, to discharge stirred emotions. Day 5. Emergent seed. Spend morning in creative play. Paint, compose, tinker, without aiming for perfection. Afternoon lake or shower meditation. Let water symbolize psychic renewal. Day 6. Integration plan. Outline how insights translate into daily action. Choose one habit to release, one to adopt. Craft a sentence you can repeat in public when overwhelm hits. I stand in silent strength. Day 7. Return right. At sunrise, speak your insights aloud to the sky. Thank the silence. Turn phone on intentionally, scroll mindfully for messages, and notice altered perception. Celebrate with nourishing meal shared with someone who respects your process. Follow such a rhythm and isolation becomes less an event, more a lifestyle, a rotating door between outer tasks and inner counsel. There is one final teaching Jung relayed, hushed, fearing authority backlash. Isolation awakens moral autonomy. When you meet the self, the inner nucleus wiser than any societal rule, you recognize conscience as an internal compass. Systems built on obedience tremble at that discovery. Thus, true solitude is quietly revolutionary. It births citizens who act from inner law, not mass hypnosis. Jung believed the future hinged on individuals brave enough to enter silence, confront shadow, and return luminous with self-knowledge. So here is your invitation. Schedule your first cocoon within the next 72 hours. Protect it like a sacred appointment. Stock a journal, maybe clay or crayons, extinguish distractions, and step across the threshold. Expect boredom, resistance, maybe flashes of terror. Welcome them. Beyond lies a clear pool where the self waits, ancient and patient. When you surface, dripping insight, remember Jung's last whispered counsel. Carry your candle cupped. Winds are strong out there. Guard the flame, feed it with recurring solitude, and let its glow silently transform every room you enter. That is the hidden power of isolation, banned by noise merchants, championed by Jung, and now pulsing in your hands. Go, enter the silence, and emerge unstoppable. The storm has passed. Do what fields glow beneath a pale sky, and in Jung's diary, he draws a single circle, an ancient symbol of wholeness. Isolation, he notes, is the circumference, community to center. One must travel the rim to know the point. Today we explore that travel. How to orbit between solitude and society so gracefully that the two become one seamless rhythm. Begin with morning liminality. Before the phone flares or headlines roar, linger 5 unclaimed minutes in bed. Feel the frontier where dream and waking share a thin veil. Ask silently, what fragment of night wisdom follows me in today? Even a color or emotion can seed intention. By honoring this threshold, you keep the corridor to the unconscious propped open long after you rise. Next, infuse ordinary commutes with micro withdrawals. On a bus or in traffic, soften your gaze, let sounds blur, and drop attention into breath and heartbeat. While bodies jostle around you, you inhabit an invisible cloister. 2 minutes here, 3 there, tiny islets of silence that stitch a whole ocean beneath the busiest schedule. But isolation isn't only inner, it's outer curation too. Jung recommended a psychic pantry audit every season. Review the people, media, and environments you consume. Which nourish individuation? Which dull it? No drama, just deliberate pruning. Unfollow one frenetic feed, decline one draining invitation, and instantly widen space for the self to echo. Guard that space with a practice he called the stone hour. Choose a consistent daily slot, lunch break, twilight, post-gym, when you do nothing but sit, walk, or doodle without goals. Jung literally stacked stones. You might garden, knit, or stare at clouds. The ego, starved of tasks, quiets. The unconscious, trusted, speaks. Still, modern life demands output. Here's the key. Convert solitude's insights into concrete creative acts before re-entering heavy social currents. Write the poem, map the business idea, draft the apology letter while your inner lantern glows bright. Then carry the finished ember outward. Waiting too long lets noise dilute the flame. Conflict will test you. After returning from depth, surface chatter can feel shrill. Colleagues may misread your calm as distance. Jung suggested transparent shielding. Speak plainly. I'm processing some inner work, not withdrawing from you personally. Then set gentle boundaries. Authenticity disarms suspicion and models self-care others secretly crave. Remember to recycle shadow breakthroughs into empathy. Having met your own envy or rage in solitude, You'll spot its flicker behind someone else's criticism. Pause. Instead of reflexive defense, offer curiosity. What's underneath this frustration? Such responses alchemize potential discord into connection, proving isolation hasn't turned you aloof, but deepened your humanity. Let's widen the lens. Jung believed individuals who master this dance become culture bearers. Their art, policies, or parenting team with originality because they're sourced from inner authority, not trends. Picture Toni Morrison drafting Beloved after silent dawn rituals, or Nikola Tesla envisioning wireless power during solitary park walks. Every epoch's breakthroughs sprout from cultivated aloneness. But there's a hazard: missionary zeal. Fresh from revelation, you may want to broadcast gospel to everyone. Resist. Jung's mantra: offer water only to the thirsty. Share insights when invited. Live them always. Quiet embodiment outshines loud evangelism. How do you measure progress? Not by applause, but by resonance. Check these markers. Dreams grow less chaotic, more instructive. Synchronicities cluster like fireflies. Decisions feel like remembering, not deciding. Physical tension melts faster when you breathe into it. If these signs appear, the circuit between circumference and center hums strong. Now, a toolkit to sustain momentum. Quarterly solo day. Sunrise to sunset, offline. No errands, just being. Use for creative play, nature immersion, or extended active imagination. Silence bracelets. A subtle wristband you touch whenever noise spikes. A tactile cue to drop inward instantly, even mid-meeting. Shadow check-ins. Each new moon, journal. What trait in others triggered me this month? Trace it back to your disowned part, then plan a small act to integrate it. Synchronicity ledger. Keep a tiny notebook or phone note. Each time reality winks, double numbers, song lyric answer, chance encounter, log it. Reviewing entries boosts trust in the unfolding pattern. Reciprocal constellations. Gather 3 or 4 depth-oriented friends monthly. Each shares one solitude insight. The others reflect without advice. Mutual witnessing reinforces the return phase. Finally, remember seasons. Winters of isolation may lengthen. Summers of social bloom may sprawl. Do not shame the cycle. Trees drop leaves without guilt. Tides recede without failure. Your psyche, too, obeys lunar rhythms older than calendars. Honor them. We close with Jung's lakeside observation, once scribbled in pencil margin. What the world calls neurotic withdrawal is often the psyche's call to the well. Drink deeply, and you return with a face washed in original waters. Let those words ring as you craft your next cocoon, protect its silence, and step back into daylight, shining with something unmistakably yours. And now the circle completes. Isolation graduates into integration, private gold minted into public currency. Carry it carefully, spend it courageously, and when the hullabaloo swells too loud, you know the way back to shore. Night has fallen, and with it a hush that feels like velvet on the skin. Jung steps onto the balcony, gazes up, and notes how each star burns alone yet forms constellations only in relation to others. That, he once murmured, is the secret equation. Solitude plus connection equals meaning. Tonight, we crack that equation wide open, translating isolation's insights into tangible influence on work, love, and the collective future. Let's begin with vocation. Picture a software engineer named Mira. Burned out by open office chatter, she books a week alone in a coastal cabin. No Wi-Fi, just notebooks and tide. Day 3, boredom gives way to flow. A vision of an intuitive mental health app surfaces. She sketches wireframes between tide pools, then returns, codes a prototype. And 6 months later, her app quietly prevents thousands of anxiety spirals each day. Isolation didn't detach Mira from society, it delivered her gift to it. Now, relationships. Solitude sharpens discernment. Who enlivens your spirit? Who siphons it? Jung called this psychoecology. After a 3-day silent retreat, Andrew realizes his closest friendship revolves around mutual complaint. Armed with new clarity, he invites his friend into more uplifting activities. When resistance meets him, Andrew steps back gracefully. Space forms. Within that space, a new ally appears, someone aligned with his emerging vitality. The takeaway: chosen isolation rewrites your social orbit to match your evolving frequency. Love partnerships thrive too. Couples that schedule individual retreats often report richer intimacy. Why? Because each returns with fresh stories, perspectives, and self-knowledge, breaking the monotony that routine breeds. Jung compared it to two pillars supporting one arch. Too close, they collapse inward. Proper distance, they lift a cathedral roof. So gift your partner, and yourself, periodic solitude. Let's pivot to creativity in the public arena. Iconic musician David Bowie once vanished to Berlin, severing fame's noise. In that seclusion, he birthed the groundbreaking Heroes album, later declaring, "Isolation took me where applause never could." Same pattern. The rim feeds the center. But how do you safeguard isolation's treasures under modern hyperconnectivity? Implement what Jung termed liminal firewalls. First, device curfews. Power down phones an hour before bed and delay activation an hour after waking. Those boundary hours act as psychic bookends, protecting dream residue and dawn intuition. Second, the creative vault. A no-share zone for nascent ideas. Promise yourself the first 7 drafts or 7 days of a concept remain private. Early exposure to critique can stunt fragile inspiration. Third, monthly sense fasts. Choose one overstimulated sense, ears, eyes, taste, and dial it down for 24 hours. Maybe silence music, skip flavored foods, or avoid bright screens. Reducing one channel amplifies subtler signals from the unconscious. Jung also warned of spiritual inflation, the ego hijacking mystical experience for status. The antidote: service. After each retreat, perform one anonymous act. Donate quietly, mentor unseen, clean a public space. Secrecy keeps your inner gold from turning to fool's gold. Now, advanced inner techniques. If active imagination feels abstract, try stoma dialogue. Lie down, breathe deeply, and ask a body part: tight shoulders, churning gut. If you could speak, what story would you tell? Then listen. Bodies archive unconscious memories in muscle and fascia. Releasing them through breath and gentle movement often delivers insights faster than mental analysis. Another tool: symbol incubation. Before sleep, write a question. What blocks my next step? And draw a random symbol beside it. A bridge, a candle, a key. Gaze at it for 1 minute, then sleep. Many report waking with a dream or hunch that relates directly to the symbol's energy, guiding action. Community integration rounds out the practice. Form a silence circle. 4 to 6 people committing to quarterly 48-hour solo retreats, then meeting to swap distilled lessons. Unlike casual chats, each person presents findings as if offering rare seeds. Listeners receive without judgment. Such circles amplify collective wisdom while honoring individual depth. Let's address common setbacks. First, rebound overstimulation. Emerging from retreat to binge social media. Solution: a 24-hour soft landing. Low screens, gentle tasks, nature time. Second, existential vertigo. Sensing life's constructed meanings during solitude and feeling disoriented. Remedy: create a small act of beauty. Arrange flowers, cook artfully, sing. Beauty regrounds abstract insight into tangible life. Finally, outer world pushback. Colleagues label your new calm weird. Relatives guilt trip your boundaries. Recall Jung's counsel. Authenticity is silent authority. Over time, Your steady glow persuades more than explanation.